Why are you getting what you're getting in life?
Brannon, what's going on, man?
Not much. I have a question for you.
That
Um,
always
I need
worries me.
I need to figure this out. I need help.
Okay, what's going on?
Yeah. So if when you're on a long flight and when you're on a long flight and you feel a little bit gassy,
Okay.
what do you do? How do you, how do you handle that?
Was that your experience yesterday or what?
Well, no, I mean I might have been on a flight yesterday, but like you can't just let it fly. There's people around you everywhere.
Totally inconsiderate.
Yeah, very inconsiderate. So what do you like? How do you like?
You can't really no one wants to actually try to make their way down to the lavatory for that.
Yeah, but at the same time, like it can get extremely uncomfortable.
That's what I'd say. Lean into the discomfort of it
You lean it for like
and
you're on like a 4.5 hour
and
flight. You're
hold and
leaning
hold
in
tight and hold tight.
on a 4.5 hour flight. You're leaning into that discomfort.
You can breathe through it. What?
Well, and you're not on an aisle row, so you can't get up
Yeah.
like easily, like again and again.
Yeah.
So
Hey, I think it's kind of, unless it's like a full-on emergency, there's kind of like a courtesy thing on a flight that you don't get up more than once.
yeah. So would you rather have the guy next to you just letting it rip?
I don't know how
I'd rather have him get up.
I don't even know how you got on this topic, man. Okay.
Well, because I just sat on a flight next to you for 4.5 hours.
I had the aisle seat, so you were the one that was penned in, I guess. So thanks for only getting up
I
once, and
love how uncomfortable you're
thanks
getting.
for leaning into the discomfort. I'm not uncomfortable with it. I just don't see any point to this discussion.
I want to know. I don't. I get
You
put
got
in
my
this
opinion.
position. I get put in this position, and
You just you just asked
you're
my
giving me no
opinion.
good answer.
Do exactly what you did because I didn't know you were having those problems. You got up one time and
It
you
was
didn't bother me.
uncomfortable. It was
Yeah, and you
uncomfortable.
didn't bother me. So do that again next time. That was perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the advice, brother.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's before we jump into this, we did get another review. Thank you for the reviews when you send them, you guys. I'm just going to read this one really quick. It just says honest, authentic, and transparent. The Therapy Brothers are experienced and extremely supportive in a variety of conversations with men and women on both sides of addiction and betrayal. I love these guys and appreciate their capacity to address the many stages of change and controversial issues. That's awesome. Thank you to whoever sent that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
We love your reviews.
Absolutely. Um, all right, Tyler, I think we're gonna get into something that I think is really really cool when you understand it. Um, but it's one of those things that once you learn it, you can't unsee it, and you start to see it everywhere in your life and in the life of others. Um, and so I thought I'd start with just like a little bit of a story. Um, we met, we just got back from Florida late last night, and we met a bunch of really cool people and new people, people from different different places that we would have never met otherwise. We had everything from doctors there to barefoot millennials, monks, and it was just incredible. Anyways, we were talking to someone yesterday, and she was kind of sharing her story a little bit, and she was talking about some things going on in her life and in her relationship and things. And it was interesting to listen to her because, on one hand, she was aware that some things weren't working. On the other hand, she really had no desire to actually change it. Um, and she kept going in circles a little bit, right, Tyler? Of with it of like, well, yeah, like I'm not going to actually kind of do what I need to do in order to change this thing. Um, and you look at that, and I think a lot of us are in those type of cycles in our life where we're getting certain outcomes, certain things are happening to us, we don't love the outcomes, and yet we keep doing the same thing again and again and again, and we're getting those same outcomes that we don't like. And so it begs the question, why? And then it begs the question after that of, then how do you change that?
Yeah. And I think with that, Brandon, what's interesting about that is we continue to have the same outcomes. And most of us, when we continue to have those same outcomes, we would say out loud, I don't want to keep having this or this or this happen. And maybe we at least know that it's happening, but most of us almost willfully we stay in denial of the fact that we might be contributing to the cycle and the pattern of the outcomes that we don't want. So we live in this spot where we're not even conscious of the fact that, hey, I have something. I am actually the one who can facilitate the most change in this part of my life around like the outcomes that I want different. And yet I'm continually looking outward saying, well, if this would happen, or if this would happen, or if he would do this, if she would do that, if this or that, if I could win the lottery, like whatever
Then,
else. It's
then,
if, when, then. It's always these outside sources, and yet the outcomes keep continuing, and the person that pays the price of the outcomes is us.
right, right. Yeah, absolutely. The you ask somebody what they want in life, Tyler, and what they'll tell you is what they don't have. Um, and they'll tell you what they want, but then they're not really doing much or changing much to get it. So whether it's a healthy relationship, um, make more money, be more connected to God. I
Have
could go
more
down
self-confidence.
more self-confidence, be healthy in your femininity, masculinity, like whatever it is, all really good things. Yay, those things are awesome. And yet they don't have it and they're not doing the work to actually create it. Um, and a lot of times, Tyler, they say they want these things and they're completely unconscious of why they don't have those things in their life. And I love what you just said. They're actually in a place of victim in many ways, or blame or hopelessness. There's some type of denial there that's keeping them unconscious from actually facing what they need to face and dealing with what they need to deal with in order to shift and create something new.
Right. You heard sometimes, we've said this quote before on the podcast, but sometimes a good scapegoat is more welcome than an answer to the problem.
Ugh.
And the thing is we don't really realize that we do that to ourselves. Like if I'm and we don't and I don't think we know how to actually kind of work the process of becoming conscious in order to then be able to do something different. And that's kind of what we're going to get into today a little bit. But that denial is so hardwired into us sometimes that we can go for years without even realizing that we're fueling it with the way we're seeing ourselves, our lives, the core values and beliefs that we've just kind of assumed as we've lived our lives and had our experiences.
Right. Right. Question, Tyler. Can you create what you want in your life?
Absolutely.
You believe that?
I do.
Or okay.
Yeah.
Um, are all your wildest dreams coming true?
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
Some of them not yet.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that, of stopping and taking stock and being like, holy cow, like my life is amazing. It's like you absolutely, Tyler, have done a lot of work and done a lot of things to create a lot of beauty and goodness and just amazing stuff all around you. Right. And yet there's probably still some things that you wish were different,
Yeah,
that,
and
that
I
you would
think
like
it's
to
easy too.
change.
You get and once you achieve whatever the mile markers are that you wanted to hit, once you achieve them, it's really easy to just take those for granted because you're always focused on what you still don't have,
Right.
right? Or what's still wrong, or what's still broken, or what's this, or what's the because the negative part of our lives gets all the energy because that's like biologically how we survived, is we always focus on the negatives. But yeah, pausing like you said, Brannon, and just going, you know what, my life is. If I were to take snapshots of my life 15 years ago to now, like my life is awesome.
Well, you know what I think is healthy is to just try to be as honest as you can be about what you're getting in your life. So you don't want to, overflate it a little bit of like how amazing it is if it's not that amazing. And you also don't want to be in denial about how horrible it is, right? If there are issues.
Right.
And so to try to get just in this place of honest reflection of the things I'm getting in my life, be grateful for the things that you're creating, have compassion for yourself, have appreciation for yourself and all the things you're creating, but also look at things and say, okay, like I'm stuck in a pattern here and keep creating this same thing that I don't like. What needs to shift? Um, Tyler, you and I are in a state of change right now with our with some of the things we're doing in terms of business and things like that. And it's interesting because it's like, oh, we're working this program to start to do things different a little bit. And what happens, Tyler?
Like everything gets uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden this like little business thing we're doing is hitting on like the deepest parts of our soul and making us look in the mirror big time, right?
Yeah.
Which means this thing is working.
It's working exactly the way that it's supposed to.
Hmm.
Right. And I think that's what we want to do today, Brandon. And maybe you and I could share some experiences of either our personal experiences or clients as we walk through this pattern of like maybe a way to address these things. But before we get into that too much, I'd like for our listeners to actually think about something in their own lives.
Okay.
And me and Brannon will walk you through it's actually kind of a version of an exercise that is inside the healing journey that we have on the platform at reclaimyourheart.org. But we'll do a smaller version of it here today with our examples. But I'd like for everyone just to like visualize for a minute. Like if you take a look at your life, just pause for a second, look across all areas of your life, physical, emotional, spiritual, social, sexual, any part of your life that you want to look at. And if you were to just sit quietly for just a split second and just let whatever rises to the surface rise to the surface, what is a what is an outcome in your life that you don't like right now? It might be a repetitive outcome, it might be a current single outcome, but what is something in your life that you don't necessarily like right now? It could be the way you're showing up at work, it could be what you're doing with your kids, it could be a secret you're keeping, it could be a
There's
bad
feelings of
habit,
guilt, shame, disgust,
anything.
resentment,
What's something in your
sadness.
life that you don't really that seems to be there, but you don't really want it there or you want it to change? And as we talk through these examples, try to apply the principles that Brandon and I are going to talk through to your own situation and see if it does anything for you. Now, I will say this that if you actually follow through on this exercise, by the end of this episode, around this particular problem you have in your life, there will at least be one fundamental shift that will start to happen that you may not want to have happen. You're going to start to become more aware of it. And when you become more aware of it, if you refuse to do something about it, you will be signing yourself up for more discomfort and suffering.
Yeah.
So
Cause then you're like,
it's
you're
ignorance is bliss.
yeah, you're kind of you're like conscious of your denial.
You're going to start to become aware of your denial, and then you're going to have to choose denial instead of just be in denial.
It pushes you, what we call it stages of change. It pushes you from pre-contemplation, which is like, I have no idea that I even have a problem, to contemplation, which is more uncomfortable than pre-contemplation because it's like,
Because you know something needs to shift.
I know it. I know that I have the power to shift this. I just don't want to.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's an uncomfortable place. So, um,
Right.
should we walk them through it, Tyler?
Yeah. Let's walk them through it.
All right. So we call this our trauma tree. And we won't get in like way depth here with it. But we want to give you high level understanding of of this principle, and it's amazing when you understand it. So the first thing that we look at is the outcomes of your life. We call it the fruits of your tree. Somebody comes into therapy or starts reading self-help or something, they're like, I want to change something. So we ask, well, what's going on in your life?
What are the
Um,
problems? What are the good things? Like, what are the
yeah,
both the good fruits and the bad fruits in your life?
in all areas of life, what's working, what's not working. And sometimes with that, you can just yourself, like what Tyler was just saying, what bubbles up for you, you can do an assessment. You can just get really honest with yourself. You can go through it. You can just take inventory. Um, but sometimes, and this is it's crazy, Tyler. But sometimes we're not even aware of the outcomes that we're creating in our life, and it takes some outside reflection, um, or other people in a way to reflect back, like, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I'm seeing.
Right. And a lot of times when they hit it dead on, you
Ah, ugh.
you're like everyone's like, can I give you some feedback? And everyone's like, yeah, please give me feedback, give me feedback. And then when somebody gives you feedback that's dead on, you walk away going like, I hate that person, or why do they have
Yeah,
to say that? Or
yeah.
like,
It's like let's say I was jumping from job to job to job, and
yeah,
like you talked to me, Tyler, and I was like, hey, will you give me some feedback about what I'm creating in my life? Tell me about my career. And you're like, you're jumping from job to job to job. There's definitely a pattern of not sticking with something.
you don't follow through on things, and
And
I'm
I'm like,
afraid that you
F
don't.
you, Tyler. F you. That's about you, you jerk. Um, I don't want to look at the
Yeah,
outcomes of my life. That's
yeah,
too vulnerable. It's too scary. It's too hard. So the vulnerability starts right here at the fruit level. When you start to take a look, some of the things you're very aware of, and it's like, yeah, I know, like
yeah.
I get it, like, um, and then some of the things it's you're aware of, but you don't want other people to be aware of them. And when other people are aware of them, it triggers shame.
That's right. And a lot of this is going to boil down to shame for most of us eventually, but we'll get there in a second. So,
Yeah.
so Brandon, maybe giving an example of what happened for me this weekend. Like we went to a place, the conference we went to was for, it was a specific training for people who are healers in all different facets of being healers, who also want to be able to expand their reach and help more people and expand their business. So it was like a weird combination of a healing, meditative kind of a conference with business principles mixed in.
It was awesome.
It was great. Yeah. And it was exactly what we're looking for because you and I, and this is where I'm going with this, is one of the outcomes in my life that I want is that I want to take our message to everybody. Like I feel like what we have here is something that can help millions of people. Deep inside, I feel that. But where the fruits are is that I'm not very good at helping people who need. I'm not very good at help people who need what we have to offer to pull the trigger on actually joining what we have to give them. Call it sales, right?
Right.
I'm a bad salesman. I'm
I'm,
I've been
I'm
a I've been a horrible salesman. That's one of the outcomes in my life.
Tyler. I'm looking at your most recent post on Instagram. You have, hey, congrats! You have 4 likes. You're
that's
killing it, man.
that's
Hey,
probably that's
your
probably my
daughter
my wife who didn't really look at it but just hit like. My daughter who did the same
and
thing.
me.
Maybe you and then maybe one other random person who just happened to be like accidentally hit the like button
Like,
or something, right?
dang,
So
man.
so this is the discomfort of it all, right? Like I'm sitting here in this weekend and now it's starting to dawn on me that it doesn't matter how much heart that I have, how much goodness I want to give, how much I believe in what our product is. If I don't figure out what is wrong with me and the way that I take that message to the people who need it, I'm going to be depriving the world of something that I really believe in, that I believe God has called me to do.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So that's an outcome in my life that I don't like and that I now have to kind of confront. And it's been so easy for me to rely on old beliefs that are like, well, it's greedy to want to be a good businessman, or, what is the Christian famous money is the root of all evil, or whatever else,
Don't
right?
be annoying
Don't
online
be
to
annoying. People
people.
don't
And
really want to be bugged by
so
you.
these are all the excuses.
That's all the,
There's something underneath all this. These are all the
yeah, yeah.
reasons, the excuses why you're not going to
That's
change.
what I've done to
Yeah.
produce. That's part of what I've done to continue to produce the outcomes, right? That's kind of the behaviors. So that leads to the second tier, which is the branches of the tree, right? So you got the fruits. You're terrible at sales, Tyler. The branches of the tree are like, I play small. I don't value what I have with other people because I don't want to cause tension and conflict. So I'm a nice guy. I
Yep.
don't, I might disagree with people. I try to avoid friction with people. Like, I try to play the wallflower mask a little bit,
Yep.
that way, right?
Yep.
So then that's actually helping to produce the very thing I don't want to have happen.
The,
But I'm not even seeing it.
yeah, you're automatically falling into those behaviors in order to protect against the shame, the deepest shame, the exile parts. You're automatically unconsciously falling into those behaviors. And this is where it gets really kind of fun, but it also starts to get a bit more uncomfortable where it's like, "Uh-oh, now I'm outing myself." Like all these tactics that I use, all these strategies that I use to I'm going to go from unconsciousness to accountability.
Yep.
And do I want to do that? Like do I actually want to do that?
I have to confront all of those things that I'm doing, and that a part of me actually believes in what I'm doing, even though it's not serving the outcome that I want to change.
Right. So if, for example, let's say, and by the way, these branches, we call them different things. We call them shame screens. We call them
Protective parts,
protective
masks.
parts, masks. They're just those little roles that you play or the tactics that you use in order to avoid vulnerability. Um, but if I'm really, oftentimes, Tyler, with these ones, we'll use what is our true self, our real good talent and just who we are, and we'll use that as a mask because we're good at it. We'll take it and we'll use it to avoid. Your masks can actually inform some who you actually are.
Yeah. They just
Um,
get used in the wrong spaces to be effective sometimes.
right. Like if I'm really smart, I might intellectualize and use my brain to get me out of a bunch of things to avoid vulnerability.
But that doesn't help when you're trying to have connection with your partner over an argument.
If I'm really caring about other people, and I actually truly am, and then all of a sudden that I become a doormat because I'm caring about others, and I just my bleeding heart cares so much about you that I can never step up and have a boundary. It
Then
becomes a problem.
that's where it becomes a problem, even though it's a good part of you, right?
It's a good part of you
Yeah.
that is being used um, to avoid fear
To
and
keep you
avoid pain.
stuck.
Yeah. Um, and so it's really cool when you start to become aware of these parts, become aware of these masks, because now you remove it from this automatic thing that's inside of you, and it becomes this thing that you can look at and understand.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. So you have the fruits that are being upheld by the branches, and the branches are those masks or kind of protective parts that are showing up, but not showing up in the right spaces sometimes. And that's where you start to become aware and start to take accountability and say, oh, if I keep playing small, if I keep playing just like, okay, yeah, well, I think we've got pretty good stuff here, but yeah, you don't have to really take a look at it, then I'm going to continue to have the outcome of being a terrible person at sales because of what I believe about sales, right?
Right.
And what I'm choosing to follow through on about sales,
Right.
right? So moving down the tree, we have what's called the core beliefs. The trunk is what your actual sort of core beliefs really are.
Yeah.
So you have to tease out what's underneath the masks that you're using to avoid, to kind of protect, and you have to get underneath and say, why am I showing up that way? What is it that I believe about myself, about the world, about other people that is leading me to put on these masks that are producing these outcomes?
Yeah. And this is where like it's really interesting because we all have our own paradigm. We all have our own perspectives, and we all have our own systems that, like, Tyler, even though we were raised, we're a year apart, raised in the same family. Now some of the things that we believe and some of the lenses that we look through are the same because we had so many similar experiences. And yet, your experiences were very different than mine in many ways. And so you view the world different than I do,
Right.
just because you've had different experiences. So, somebody might say something to you and it means one thing. Maybe you get really upset about it, and they say the same thing to me and I laugh and I think it's funny. Like
Right.
that, and that's because it filters through these lenses, it filters through these belief systems, and then you have a response to that.
That's right. And a lot of us have a hard time finding those core beliefs because the core beliefs a lot of times just establish themselves as a byproduct of the things that happen in our lives. So we have to
Right.
pause and actually get really curious. This is where curiosity has to come in and say, why, what are the beliefs and why did I start to believe these things? So,
Can I
I
give
had,
some?
yeah,
Oh, oh,
go
go.
ahead, share it.
I just want to give some examples of belief systems, and
Yeah.
there's a gazillion of them. Um, but the things we deal with a lot are nobody will love me as I am. Um, like men won't show up for me. I'm gonna get rejected. I'll ultimately fail. Um, and the the people with these beliefs probably wouldn't say them out loud, but they're
No, it's a
inside of
deep
them. It's the
feeling. It's more in
it's
your
the
body.
construct of the world they're living in.
Yeah.
And so then, if that's deep inside of them, and what's interesting, Tyler, we've been talking about sales for the last 3 days, and sales pushes you to actually look at what are these beliefs that I have that's really making it hard for me to be uncomfortable, right? And it's interesting because with something like sales, different beliefs can actually be the thing that is in the way.
Right.
You could have a belief about money, like, well, trying to make money is greedy. There's a belief system
That's a
that's going to get
belief.
in your way. You could have a belief about yourself, like, well, if they don't buy it, I'll get rejected,
That means I'm not good enough or I'm a
and I'm not
failure
good
or
enough. I'm a
something else.
failure, right? So then, yeah. So, did you have an example?
No, yeah, just working through just working through the example that I was sharing from this basically from this weekend is here I am. I'm realizing that I'm in the way of actually really fulfilling what God has called me to do because I have this lack of skill. The lack of skill is actually as a result of me showing up in certain ways. And now the core beliefs around that are, if I really start to dig deep, and I challenge our listeners, if you're following along with this with your own thing, like you start to look at like, what are the things that feel natural in me, but are actually just beliefs that I'm showing up with? So one is for me, I've never wanted to be a burden on anybody. I've always wanted to be nothing but a giver. And I remember like in my practice early days, I started my own private practice like a long time ago. And like after the third year of being in business, my wife came to me at tax time. She was like, "Hey Ty, hey Tyler, like what's this number that you have written down?" Because I was like going through and writing down like all of the different numbers of expenses and things like that. She's like, "What's this number here that you wrote down?" And I was like, "Oh, that's the dollar amount of all the free sessions that I did this year." And it was like it was almost as much as what I
Astronomical.
had made. I was basically doing sessions, one every other client was free. My wife, so it got to the point where my wife started to resent me and she started asking like every day, like, "Hey, how many sessions did you have today?" And I'm like, "Oh, I had 7 today." "How many were free?" Three." And finally came to me and she's like, "Tyler, you got a problem." And I'm like, "I'm just being generous. I'm just being kind. Like I
That's
just
the
want to
mask.
give. I just
That's
want
the
to,
mask.
which I do because I am that
That's the
way.
good part of you
That's the
that's turned
good
into
part
a
of me."
mask.
And then my wife said, "You have to realize, Tyler, that in all of your generosity, there's also a wife and 4 kids here that need to be provided for."
I hope. Ouch.
I'm like, oh, I'm like, oh crap, there's truth in that too, right?
Right.
So So what's the belief underneath that then? The belief
It,
is something like, I don't really feel like I'm worth what I'm giving people.
yep,
It's a
yep,
harder one for me to say out loud
yep.
because that's the vulnerable piece.
Right.
That's the part that's like people don't really want what I have to offer. I don't want to be greedy. I don't want to I want people to be known that I love them as people and not as a number, like that
But
kind of a
all of
thing.
that is the mask. All of
Right.
that's like the justification to do it. But the belief system's
It's
even
even
deeper.
underneath it, underneath it.
It's like I am a burden, or
I'm a burden. I'm a failure. My
yeah,
my wife
I'm
calls it my poor kid mentality. She's
I
like,
have to
Tyler,
prove myself in order to be loved.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
like that's the belief system that is driving the excuses, driving the behavior. And then you can go to your wife and be like, "What? Like look at how good I am." And that's
Yeah.
what you're going what's crazy
It's
is
a form of gaslighting without even know that I'm doing it.
right. And we all do it, but what's crazy is these beliefs, these core beliefs is they are amazing because they create what you believe. They perpetuate it. If I believe I'm unlovable, I'm going to go out and
You'll
find
go
people
find
that won't
proof.
love me.
Yep, you'll go find proof.
And when they don't love me, it'll drive home that belief. And when that belief gets driven home, what am I going to do again? Go find people that don't
You're
love
going to
me.
have it reinforced and say, yep, that's the truth. That's what life is. You're not even going to question it because you lived it so many times that you
It
don't
just
even know you can
is.
question it.
It just is.
Right.
And and this is where it gets unconscious because people look at the outcomes of their life and they're like, "Well, I don't want those outcomes." Well, are you willing? Are you willing to go into the depths a little bit here? Are you willing to actually like it's interesting as you were talking Tyler because even as for anybody as you're talking somebody kind of got down to it with me over the weekend and it's
Yeah.
like as you get down to it it's like oh shoot like there's this feeling of like uh-oh like I'm actually hitting on something very tender.
This is
um
way bigger than a sales question now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like when the dentist is drilling down and there's that nerve and it's like, oh, you're getting. I had a root canal and he popped through this part in my tooth and just pain everywhere, just intense, crazy. It's like that. It's like, oh, you just hit it.
Yeah. You had that happen this weekend
Yeah, I had
in
that
like
happen.
10 minutes time with the guy asking the
Yeah,
questions.
emotionally this weekend. It's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Oh.
he just hit that little pain point and he hit on a belief of mine. And I can share that belief, but the belief is I'm not important. And when he hit on that belief, it was like all of this stuff came up for me. Um, and all of these experiences, all of the beliefs that I have around that came up for me. And it was like, yeah, oh yeah, that one. And what's interesting is I was asking him about like um I was asking him about reaching out to people and, creating like cold leads basically. So here I am talking about creating cold leads, and he's drilling down to like my nerve to say like my nerve, my faulty
Yeah.
core belief to say like that's where that's coming from. That's where it's coming from,
Yeah.
right?
We're not gonna do anything to change your problem with cold leads until we address this thing.
That
This
thing.
belief here, this
And
I'm
and
not
and
important thing.
when he says that thing, I'm like, oh, I don't want to address that. That's the last thing I want to touch. I don't want to
Yeah.
get to that. That's too
Just
much.
give me a tool or a skill on how to be a better sales guy.
Yeah, and
It's like,
then I'll go out and not create any cold leads. Like,
and they'll keep producing the same outcomes.
all right. And by the way, just side note, we're talking about sales and stuff. Tyler and I just got
It could
back
be
from a
anything.
conference.
Yeah.
This is everything. It's the intimacy in your relationship, the the abundance that you have or create, the purpose that you feel in your career. The like it can be anything. You can look at this and say, "Huh, I'm getting this outcome. What are my branches? What is my trunk?"
Right.
And we're not
And
done yet.
no, we're not done yet. So But that's it. So if you're following along with your own situation, it's like, okay, you got this outcome. What are the ways that you're showing up that actually might be fueling the outcome? What are the beliefs underneath it that you carry with you daily? And this is probably going to be a lot of these are going to trickle down into like the shame-based beliefs of like what's wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I'm second rate. Other people's feelings are more important than me. I'm going to be a failure, like whatever else. If you sit with that feeling, that's going to be like a full that belief is going to come with like a full body response. And if you sit with that full body response for a minute, then you can get really curious and ask the next question, which is the roots. The roots are what are the life experiences that actually formed this belief in me?
Yep.
What are the key elements that have because the life experiences were things that happened that I interpreted a certain way, and there was a lot of emotion attached to it, which then cemented in the belief.
Yeah.
And so if I can go back and say, so like in my situation this weekend, the one that I was thinking of is like as I was going deeper with this thing where it's like I'm a bad salesman had turned into like, hey Tyler, you don't want to be a burden and you don't want to get in people's way and you but you also want to be a giver. Um, it took me back to a memory of my very first day at kindergarten.
Miss
So
Allred.
Miss Allred was great.
Yeah, she was
Miss
great.
Allred was great, but what happened is there was a couple of things that happened. Number one, I was just naturally kind of shy by going. So I was really excited to go. I was willing to go. I wanted to step in. I was kind of anxious and kind of stepping in with courage. Miss Allred was great, kind teacher, but I was shy. So being shy, I didn't really connect instantly with a lot of the other kids. And then early on, we did an art project and they had like that pasty glue that the one weird kid would eat, and
Yeah, I
then
remember that.
yeah,
Yeah, with the wooden stick.
yeah, the wooden stick,
Yeah.
like that. And we are like cutting stuff out. And I think I was actually born left-handed, but didn't know it. And I was cutting with right-handed scissors with my left hand, and it was just like jagged and ripped and choppy and just like and I'm looking around at all the other kids and theirs is all like nicely cut out. And then the teacher came over and got like kind of mad at me and was like, you have to put the scissors on your other hand. And I was like, I thought I was in trouble even though they were just trying to correct me. And so I had like this like, oh, like I'm different, I'm not as good, like I'm kind of embarrassed now. And
Something so small.
no one was mean to me. No one was like overly, but I felt it and I could see how different I was. And I remember going home and not ever saying a word about it because I felt so bad about it. But every day, that's the reason I've hated art my whole life.
Wow.
Is because I knew I would never measure up. When in reality, it was just that I needed a left-handed pair of scissors.
We're gonna do a webinar and it's just gonna be your art. Like, your art depicting certain topics and things. Um,
But the core belief that came, and this is just one, and then you start stacking on, 5, 6, 10, 20, 100 other memories on top of that. The core belief was, Tyler, you don't quite measure up. You're a little bit different. Even though I was willing and ready to step into whatever the new thing was, I was afraid of failing and being seen as different.
well, and Tyler, you tell this story, and it's interesting because it goes both ways in terms of like I watch my kids, and I swear some of their belief systems are contrived. And I'm not trying to like say I'm the perfect dad or anything,
It's not
but
your fault.
yeah, but it's like something little like that will happen, and it's like, yeah, well, they start defining themselves.
Yeah.
Um, but then there's the little things that you start to shape your reality with. But then there are the long term, just things that last for a while that can really shape your reality. Like if you're in an abusive situation for a while, there's big T trauma, there's little T trauma. All of the trauma starts to create your systems.
Yeah. It
Um,
starts to build the belief system.
yeah, and the more trauma that you have, there's a correlation between the more trauma that you have, naturally, the more protection you're going to have around you. So your ego, your protective parts are going to be very activated. You're going to create all kinds of sophisticated systems to protect yourself. And that's awesome. That's actually quite amazing that we do that as human beings. The problem is, as life starts to flush itself out, you start to get certain outcomes because you're in a state of fear and control. You're in a state of protection. And then you end up with talking to a therapist and wanting something different in your life. And the reality is in order to create something different, you're going to have to deal with these belief systems.
Right.
Um, so the roots are the trauma, the experiences. So you can kind of see the full tree now. If it, you know, let's walk them through it, Tyler.
Outcomes are the fruits. The ways that you try to protect yourself and show up that are actually contributing to the fruits are the leaves and branches. They're the masks, the protective parts of you. The core of the tree or the trunk is your core beliefs that are formed, and at the roots are the experiences that help shape and create the core beliefs.
Yeah.
So,
I
so the yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'd challenge anybody who's listened to this today to just do a little experiment. Think of a triggering situation. It might be your boss, it might be your spouse, and just get so curious with yourself. Huh? What are the outcomes I have with this relationship? How close are we really? Um, when I'm triggered, how do I show up? And I think of like people I talk to, guys I talk to, and they're like, "Oh, my wife wanted to talk about a hard topic, and I was freaking out, and I didn't know what to do." And I, like, okay, right there, you're starting to see your masks come up. Um, why are you freaking out when she's trying to talk about a hard topic? Well, because I have a belief inside of me that I'm a failure.
That I'm
Um,
not good enough for her.
I'm not man enough. Well, why do you believe that? Well, because you know I remember when I was 10 and dad left us for another woman and hardly ever visited. And I just felt like I wasn't important or I wasn't man enough and so then when she wants to have this hard conversation right now and today, I'm showing up as that little boy that got abandoned when I was 10,
That's right.
right? Um,
Every piece of that matters, Brannon, because there are things you can do with each piece. So the first part is the outcomes. You've got to become conscious, and those will either smack you in the face at some point, or you can be curious and find them. But consciousness will then lead to a deeper sense of awareness, and that awareness will allow you to take responsibility or accountability, and then that accountability will allow you to go a little bit deeper. And when you find the roots, it will lead to the practice of compassion and understanding.
I think you skipped a really important one, Tyler, if you don't mind me being
Go
annoying.
ahead. I probably did.
Well, like, okay, I'm conscious, I'm aware, I'm accountable. But before we fully get to compassion, between accountable and compassion, there's courage. Like
Oh, for sure.
that is the way that you undo this. You act opposite to these beliefs and these fears. You have to experience something different. The only way you're going to actually experience it is by sitting in the fear and practicing some courage.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And then the lower part is the compassionate part. And, that's something that I experienced this weekend. And it was so crazy how it clicked for me that I had this imagery of this kindergarten kid that I got to spend some time with once I found him and located him. And all he needed was for me to sit with him and go, "Hey, you're all right, man. This is life. It happens sometimes. People didn't understand. You didn't understand. It was a new experience, but you were willing. You stepped in. You have what it takes. It's okay. Like you actually came through this okay, even though you didn't think you did." Right. And I felt that 5-year-old kindergarten self just kind of like, oh, like I'll just hang with you now. And it was so weird because now I can actually like look at my situation right now and what we're trying to do, and just that little bit of shift is makes it so much easier for me to then go, I I can't play small with the life that I've lived, with the gifts that God has given me, with the things that God wants me to do. I can't play small. I'd be doing the world a disservice if I didn't. step in, even though it still takes courage, and say, you know what I've gone through and what we have to offer changes people's lives. It absolutely changes people's lives. That's
No
why we're
question.
doing what we do.
No question.
And there's
No.
and I can't play small anymore because my kindergartner is now understanding that you can't do that. You can't hide, you can't stay in the shadows, you can't pretend you don't like art. You got to get in the game.
This process is available for anybody who wants something different in their life and really wants to practice the vulnerability and courage to do it. Um, I can't wait to get the picture that you draw or paint or whatever on the family text thread today. I can't
Yeah.
wait, and I want you to do it and be like, dude, check this out. It's pretty
It'll
good.
probably be it'll probably be
I don't,
birds on a
I don't
tree.
want the birds one. That's what you hid behind. That's your mask.
That was
That's your.
that was the
He
mask.
thought he was good at a like a toucan on a
It was like
stick.
a stick figure.
He's like, oh, I figured that out.
It's like, okay,
No.
like somebody gave me one compliment one time about that, so that's all I ever drew.
Yeah, it can't be the toucan.
Yeah.
It can be anything abstract, whatever. But
Anything
I can't
else?
wait to see it on the family
Anything
text
else?
thread.
Acting with courage. So yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Um. So Tyler, a couple of things, if you don't mind me saying this. So, um, actually on my therapyco.org website, we have the trauma tree. You go to programs and you can find the trauma tree and it explains it. Um, so therapyco.org, you can find it there. Also, reclaim your heart. Um, if you want to start into really diving deep into this, reclaimyourheart.org. You can join our community there and you can start going through the process there. This is what Tyler and I have created.
Yeah. In much more depth than we've gone over today, but yeah, well, good conversation, Brannon. I know I'm coming home a little bit more of a changed man, and I feel like after you got done that one day, we were in breakouts when yours happened, and you got back and you're like, I just had like the best therapy session I've ever had, and this wasn't supposed to be therapy. Like,
I know
you know,
it was awesome. I
it
loved
was
it.
it was awesome. So yeah, it was good. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, we're glad you're here with us. Hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully you can use at least those principles, walk through, become cognizant of your outcomes, get curious with how you're showing up, what are the beliefs that are driving it, and what are the experiences that form the beliefs. Just expand that awareness, and instantly, even that expansion of awareness is already a massive step forward.
And always
So,
remember, guys, keep on keeping on.